Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the graveyard, and today I have my Corpseburster PvP build utilizing the Infinite Archive class set Corpseburster, one of my favorite sets in ESO, and with this we're going to be pairing it with another set that does some insane burst potential along with just detonating corpses and exploding the battlefield like a complete minefield. With that being said, let's jump right into it. Looking at our character sheet here, we have 32,000 max health. We have 48 points into Magicka, 16 points into health, just to keep that above 30,000 when we do go into Battlegrounds where there is no CP. We are still using the Jewels of Mizrael, or you can use the Smoked Bear Haunch, and then we have the Thief Mundus Stone just to boost our spell critical rating. We are an Imperial on this race just to decrease all of our costs to our skills by 6%. And then if you look at our back bar here, we are sitting at 17,000 and 16,000 spell and physical resistance. And then our critical resistance is sitting at 2,600, and we do not use Rallying Cry on this build. Stay tuned, you can see what our heals are. Looking at the front bar here, our first setup is Plague Break Lightning Staff. So Plague Break is going to put a curse, or pretty much a good dot applying the disease status effect. So you're going to be doing some disease damage along with damage over time, and then if they explode with this on them, they're going to do 50% more damage per enemy hit. This pairs very nicely with our Corpseburster set. Corpseburster, so when we detonate a corpse, we're going to be doing 5,500 magic damage, and then this is buffed by 10% per Gravelord ability slotted. And on our front bar, we have all Gravelord abilities, so we get 60% increased damage from this just by simply pressing one button, and it is a free spammable. And then, of course, we're going to be applying the Minor Breach, which is super nice, it goes a long way. We are still using Curse of Trainee for that extra health. Our back bar set, Maelstrom Perfected Restoration Staff. So, on the back bar, we're going to have increased critical chance, which goes a long way with our critical heals. And then when we use Rapid Regen, anytime it critically strikes, we're going to do 558 Magicka. So this can't occur from simultaneous critical strikes, so you can't spam this on multiple people, and then each time it crits, you get that back. However, if you spam it once, and then every time that heal crits, you get 558 magic. There's no cap on this, you just can't have multiple effects going at the same time. This helps out with our recovery quite a bit, and then we get a decent amount of magic back. So per se, if you get a crit on every heal that you do, say on yourself, that's 558 magic return, and that's basically per second. So it doesn't happen all the time, but the higher our critical healing is, then obviously the more this will pop off. We are wearing 4 medium, 2 light, 1 heavy with this setup, and then we have mostly a max magic scenario, but because we do use quite a bit of stamina skills, we have a bit more stamina recovery. We're using Plague Break and Corpseburster jewelry and Monomyth Reforged for our Mythic. I pretty much am going to be using this Mythic until it gets nerfed, and or if there's something that comes out better in the future. But for the meantime, you can't really pass up the major protection on the back bar, and then of course the major force in the front bar with that extra 20% damage. So with that being said, this is a super fun build, and I would like to display the rotation just simply because a lot of people are not necessarily attracted to Corpseburster, but I will show you a simple rotation that pretty much detonates a corpse on every second to third cast of an ability. With that being said, because we are using Venom Skull, the instance that we use a Necromancer skill is going to add to the skill here, and that is pretty much everything on our front bar. So every time we cast a Necromancer skill, we're going to give ourselves a proc of this, and then on the third cast, it's going to do 50% increased damage and leave us a corpse, allowing us to detonate Siphon. So the idea behind this is you can have 3 explosions in 1 global cooldown. And with that being said, it's when the enemy has just low enough health, you proc a corpse explosion, which is going to not only detonate the Corpseburster, then you get the explosion from Plague Break, and then you are also getting the detonating Siphon skill here, which does 6,400 disease damage to all enemies nearby. So, I know that sounds very confusing, but detonating Siphon, Corpseburster, and Plague Break can technically all bomb at the same time. So this isn't necessarily a bombing build, but it does have that potential to line up some crazy burst. And if you do it correctly with this rotation, what I'm about to show you, it can be quite deadly in Battlegrounds. So we're going to buff up here. We're just going to get a couple of things going, and then once we have all of our summons up here, we're going to start with blastbones and then drop our graveyard. Once those two are off, our Venom Skull is then going to be procced, allowing us to detonate that corpse, and then the corpse that our blastbones is going to leave is also going to allow us to detonate. So that's how we're going to get our detonating siphon to go off, along with our plague break ticking. Of course, with this having 6 million health, it's not going to be able to explode from plague break, but it only does affect players. I should probably say that it does not affect monsters. They nerfed that a couple of patches ago, but it is still very effective. So I'll show the rotation here. I'm gonna quit yapping. So we're gonna buff up. We're going to get our skeleton here. So blast bones, and then see how it's procced. So we're gonna do that. Explode, explode, and then you're just gonna rotate between blast bones, venom skull, blast bones, venom skull, and then you can explode. Blast bones, venom skull, explode. And then don't forget that your boneyard will also explode a corpse. So you have corpses everywhere because our venom skull is going to provide it. Not to mention our bone armor is going to give us additional corpses like nobility and decay. So we're always going to have a corpse at our ease. We can easily grab a corpse pretty much anywhere on the battlefield at any time, whether there's a summon on the ground or what our bone armor is proccing it. We're always going to have something to be able to detonate. So with a simple rotation like this, and then thankfully Venom Skull dropping a corpse as well, we can proc a corpse on demand. So we'll drop that and then explode a corpse. We can do that, drop that, explode a corpse, and then explode a corpse again. Now, there's not a CC particularly built into this, but you know, like I said, you're going to have so much ongoing damage and continuous damage. You don't necessarily need one, but if you did want to, you could drop the Colossus and put on Dawnbreaker. We do still have 5 Gravelord abilities on the front bar, so it's going to be boosting the Corpseburster set by 50%. You can't. I don't particularly play that way. You can. I just don't have it set up like this. But I will say that it does open up a huge burst window opportunity because of everyone being able to have that AoE CC. So pretty much at all times, you're going to be having your Venom Skull procced. See how it's glowing right there? No matter what I do, I'm always in the battle having one glowing. It's never not there when I don't need it. And then, of course, when I do need it, it's not there, right? But no, pretty much every rotation, we're going to be dropping corpses, and you're just going to be exploding things like crazy. Now, it is a bit tough to get used to if you're not, you know, in favor of this type of play style, but I will say, once you get it down, you pretty much are going to be having the time of your life. This is what a Necromancer truly feels like, and then when you're adding a set like this with this type of rotation, it does some crazy damage. So you be the judge. You tell me what you think. I'll post a couple of BG's clips after this, and I will probably continue to use this for most of my group content. It's not the best solo, I will be honest, but it's not to say that in the right hands it can't be done. CP, kind of irrelevant. Like I said, you know, build how you feel you're most comfortable with. But if you want to see what I have Fighting Finesse, Master at Arms, Weapons Expert, because I did heavy attack a lot. If you don't want this, then by all means, definitely put on something like Focus Mending or Force of Nature, and then Ironclad. You know, whatever you think that you need. Survival Instincts, Pain's Refuge, Fortify, and Boundless Vitality. But none of this is relevant in Battlegrounds because CP is deactivated. But with that being said, peace out, stay frosty, and I'll see you in the graveyard.